All right, well, let's dive into our first story here. Big news in the world of Marvel. Reports are here to give us hope that a Scarlet Witch Solo movie is in the works. Though this is not confirmed by Marvel Studios or Kevin Feige, the news from Production Weekly comes on the heels of a Dublin radio interview given by Wanda Maximoff actress Elizabeth Olsen, where she indicated her love for the character and her willingness to return to the role if there's a way to use her well. With Agatha All Along coming out this week, the witchy hype is very real. Who wants to see Wanda hex us once again?
I mean, I think most fans of Marvel are fans of the Wanda character, especially with WandaVision and what it was and how it really took Disney Plus by storm. I think a lot of Marvel fans responded very positively to that character. And it's important to note what Production Weekly is. It's not a site in terms of like scoops or stories or anything like that. It's not like Entertainment Weekly or whatever, or just like a scoop site. Production Weekly is a database that people in Hollywood pay for, that work in Hollywood. And what it essentially does is it posts up movies that are in production so people can look for jobs. Like if you're on crew or electrical or set design, or you're just a talent seeking a job in a film or whatever, that's where you go to learn about upcoming films that you could throw your hat in the ring on. And so this movie, which was titled Scarlet Witch and had a log line about something very standard that you would expect about Wanda Maximoff, who's fought for the Avengers and against the Avengers, goes on a journey to discover her powers or whatever, kind of popped up. And what's interesting about it is not only is Elizabeth Olsen named, but Jack Schaefer is named, the creator and writer of WandaVision, and Agatha All Along as being involved in writing it. And so it's one of those things, right? It's kind of in the middle. It's like, have there been things put on Production Weekly that turned out not to really get any traction and get off the ground? Yes, totally. And that's the case. And so you can't really come out and be like, this is happening unless Kevin Feige comes out and confirms it. And the fact that it was not confirmed at D23 or at Comic-Con or anything like that tells us kind of what we need to know, that if it is in production, it's not off the ground yet. But also you have to keep in mind that like this is not just some random person on the internet saying there might be a Wanda movie or whatever. I mean, this is a legitimate site within the industry that is charting. Somebody put it in there, right, from Marvel Studios, that this was a movie that they were attempting to get off the ground. So is it on Kevin Feige's like must do now list, or is it on Kevin Feige's like in a perfect world list? Like, we don't really know, but it's out there, right? They're at least talking about it. And Jack Schaefer, I would assume, has interest in being involved. I mean, to put Wanda Maximoff on the big screen is a good opportunity for someone in her position. But all that being said, I mean, I'll be interested to hear what you guys think. Like, if we do a Scarlet Witch movie, like, what direction are we going to take it in? I'm of the mind that Multiverse of Madness maybe sort of painted that character into a corner a little bit in terms of what we can do with her. We know that there's thoughts out there about whether or not she survived the end of that movie. We know that variants, of course, are a thing, and we can use variants to whatever extent we want to use them. We know that there's high probability that her son will show up in Agatha, which premieres tomorrow. So you've got all these things that you could use theoretically to connect all these webs together. But that's the most interesting part of all this to me, is like, if this is happening, like, how are we going to knit this character back into the fabric of the MCU when she sort of went on a killing spree across the multiverse and then dropped a building on herself? You know, like, what's the next move after that, right? And so that to me is the big unanswered here. But I think most people are in. I mean, I think it's a popular move. I think if Elizabeth Olsen is in and you're Kevin Feige, you're like, let's do it.
Yeah, I don't think that getting the character back in is going to be a roadblock. Now, doing it right and doing it in a way that we'll all be excited for it is different. Because I think that anytime you bring a character back from the dead, which I put in big quotation marks because that character very well may be alive somewhere, we were speculating about it on MCU Cast that she may be even showing up in Agatha. Like, absolutely, if she could show up as like a cameo, or we could find out what happened to her. but there's also just a million ways you could do it with variants and bring that character back. We've already met multiple variants of her that look like her, and she could come back in all sorts of ways, even as like zombie Queen Wanda. Like they could do all kinds of things with Wanda. So I don't think it's an issue of like possible ways to bring her in, but how much do we want to see a variant versus how much do we want to know the next steps of the character we've been getting to know for 5 or 6 movies now. And I think that's the thing that most people want, is to see what happens to that character that we have seen, like started as a villain, came to the hero side, went back to being a villain not on purpose, and then went all the way and went to villain on purpose. And some people dispute that. Some people say she wasn't even a villain at all. So it's she's a more complicated character, which I think Marvel needs, and I think could be pretty great.
It should also be said, too, real quick, that quote that you read where she said that she would be interested in coming back, she did say that. But before she said that, she was talking about how they used Wanda, and she said something along the lines of they kind of lost their way in how to use the character for a little bit. And so I'll come back if they can figure out a way to use her. And to me, like, we can read into that or not, but to me, that's sort of a flag of like, I was not crazy about being the villain of that movie. And again, we're reading into something. She did not say that, but there was a very express, like, they kind of took it in a direction, and maybe she wasn't necessarily crazy about that direction. So I think that's something to remember too, is she might not have been like complete. We don't necessarily know for sure, but I don't know if she necessarily was like, yes, please, like, let me tear up the multiverse again or whatever. Like, she might have kind of a different idea of what to do. So that's something just to consider, too, is that it could be in the background of this whole thing.
Pivoting away from that hot topic of mom and if it's good or bad or whatever, here's a little speculation from me on if this rumor actually might have some legs, and that's that we know that Jack Schaefer left the Vision series, and we didn't know why, and it was clearly on good terms, and if this is something that actually might happen, it's probably to work on this, which I'm 100% here for. So let's all manifest in a very witchy way that that's why Jack Schaefer left the Vision series. And I think we have plenty of loose ends that could bring Wanda back. And as far as like, yeah, she died, they're saying she died, sure, whatever, we didn't see her die, we saw poof red, and that doesn't count for anything really in the world of movie making. Wanda's character is a witch, and she's killed and brought back so many times in comics that they could absolutely do it in a way that makes sense. And if Agatha is a character they're going to continue to lean on too, her frenemy relationship with Wanda is such that she could help bring her back. I mean, there's so many ways to bring Wanda back into the MCU that would make sense. It could be that, it could be her somehow reuniting with Vision, or Vision bringing her back. I mean, we're getting RDJ as Doom. So is it really going to be the end of the world if we bring Wanda back from the dead? I think not.
Don't mind me, I'm just manifesting over here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I do find these reports pretty encouraging. I think I'm kind of in a similar boat as you, Haley. I recognize the import and the impact of Wanda's character, and I am reminded of some comments from Elizabeth Olsen that happened like probably about a year ago. I think we even talked about it on the show, but we did get the feeling that not only Elizabeth Olsen, but folks like Robert Downey Jr., they were kind of like bad-mouthing Marvel a little bit in retrospect. And yeah, I do remember some pretty pointed comments from her about the direction they took Wanda. But she's been making her rounds promoting her film, His Three Daughters. So in addition to this radio interview she did pop up on Jimmy Kimmel, where I may be getting confused about where she said what, but she did kind of seemingly confirm the character's death in at least her eyes. She talked about that red poof and the debris falling on her. She said, that feels kind of definitive to me, but I am totally open. And she kind of, again, her comments remained a little pointed and kind of charged. She said the impetus is on Marvel now to find some strong writers that have a good reason to bring this character back. And if they can do that, I'm open to it. But I look at the landscape and the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and thinking about the fact that we have these Avengers films on the way, we have Doomsday on the way, we have Secret Wars on the way, even the Fantastic Four, First Steps being separated in its own universe and its own timeline. I'm thinking about the mutants, and we've heard that, post the multiverse saga, it's really going to be the mutant era from Kevin Feige's own mouth. So I have to imagine that Wanda's going to factor in there, thinking about the House of M, no more mutants. It's been speculated, it's been postulated a lot, but that is my vote for how you incorporate the mutants. I'm all down for having the Fox X-Men participate in Secret Wars, but after that, I want a new roster of X-Men. I want fresh faces for a new era of mutants in the MCU, and I think House of M, no more mutants is the way to do that. You have to have Wanda around to accomplish that. So I'm encouraged, I'm optimistic, I'm manifesting.